Hi, Jasmine and Marshall, Miss Fletcher here. I wanted to give you guys some updates on the writing process. That's what we're working on right now. We're going to start writing. Actually, the class has been given a writing assignment already, but you guys, have missed part of the training. So I'm going to go over a few things with you, and then you will have the writing assignment as well. So we're going through what we call the writing process, and it's a step-by-step process to learn how to write properly. You will start with narrative writing, meaning you're telling a personal narrative or a personal story. Then we'll move into descriptive writing, where you're describing something. Expository writing, where you're telling someone how to do something, like make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or fix a bike tire or something like that. And then we move into persuasive writing, which is basically persuading someone to see your point. And then we will be doing letter writing, formal letter writing, and then a research paper eventually. So that's where the writing process will take us. So the first part that we learned was the types of writing. So, and I'm going to have to read a little bit of this from the textbook, but this is in your textbook starting on page 12. And you're going to need to know this information because there will be a test eventually with this information on it. So I want to make sure that you know where to look for the information. So it starts on page 12. It's chapter 2 of the textbook. Okay, and it's called A Walk Through the Writing Process. So there's two types of writing. One is called reflexive writing, which refers to writing for which you choose the subject and the form. So you decide what kind of writing you're going to do. So if you're a freelance writer or, somebody who writes for yourself or writes a novel or something, that would be reflexive writing. You'd be choosing what you write about and you'd be choosing what type of form you use to write it in. Okay. And then there's extensive writing, which is writing that is assigned to you. In other words, writing for which you are given a subject or a range of subjects, and you're sharing your writing with an audience, usually your teacher, and that's who you'll be sharing your writing with, okay? So reflexive writing, where you choose the writing in the form, and extensive writing, where you get told basically what to write about, and, you turn it in to me, okay? So then there's modes of writing, like I told you. Narrative writing, which is what you'll be doing first. That's just telling a personal story. Descriptive writing, persuasion, exposition. Persuasion is persuading someone to, accept your point of view. It's not necessarily argumentative writing. And then you have exposition, which is telling someone how to do something, like I said, make a peanut butter or jelly sandwich or fix a bike tire or something like that. Okay? That's just basically flat writing where you're telling someone how to do something. And then descriptive is also the same. It's kind of describing something. Okay? So those are the types of writing. Then you'll also be doing a research paper, which will come last after you've learned how to do all the writing. Okay? And then, of course, we will be learning to write a formal letter. Even though you guys probably don't do that very often, you probably don't do it at all, but you might someday. So we do need to learn how to write a formal letter, and we'll be learning that process as well eventually. So this is going to take place over a couple of weeks during the next during this term. So hopefully by the time we end this term, we'll get to the research paper, which will take you into the third term. Okay, so there is a process to writing. And it's the first step is pre-writing, where you basically choose your topic, narrow it to a manageable writing assignment, and then you brainstorm and you kind of like decide. You can either make organized notes, bullet points, but you just want to take information and, kind of start organizing what you're going to talk about. So, and we'll go over that in just a few minutes. Okay, and then you do drafting. Okay, and what that involves is you're writing your first rough draft. So you would write your paper. Typically, you turn it into me, and I grade them, but I don't grade them. What I do is I use a rubric. I give you what you would get on the rubric if this were a final paper, but I grade them as a completion grade. So, but the rough draft is important because that's where I make the corrections, give it back to you, and then you'll be writing you'll be revising it. That's the next step, revising. So once I give you back the paper, you would be revising the information and going on the corrections that I gave you and then rewriting it. So you're revising it, you're correcting, rewriting, and then you're editing and proofreading. So you're making sure once you rewrite it that all of your corrections are done, your spelling's correct, your grammar's correct, your sentence structure is correct. Everything that I tell you to do, you need to kind of do in that final paper. And then you present it, which of course you won't be presenting it to anyone but me, your teacher. So, but that is part of the writing process. It's called publishing and presenting, which you'll be doing that, to me. So, that's pretty much the writing process. So keep in mind that these kinds of questions, like what types of writing are there, what modes of writing are there, and what is the process of writing, will be on a test eventually that you'll see probably in a couple of weeks, hopefully. Or, probably not a couple of weeks, maybe a week or a week and a half. So that's kind of what we're talking about. And when you're choosing your topic, you have to learn how to narrow your topic. Okay. So for instance, if you choose a topic like soccer, okay, soccer is a very large topic. And you can see there's a sample strategy called a planning web or a cluster diagram. And that's on page 15 of your text. So you're choosing this topic, soccer. Well, obviously soccer's much too big of a topic. You could write a book about soccer. So you have to narrow that down. So what you do is you make these little, I'm going to show you this real quick if I can. I'm sitting in my kitchen, so, Okay, so this is a cluster web or diagram, cluster diagram, okay? And here's the soccer right here. And then we're narrowing it down to different things, okay? So let me tell you what those things are, okay? So the person who wants to write about soccer, again, soccer is way too broad of a topic, way too big, so you have to narrow it down. So he or she might narrow it down to say practices. I'd like to talk about practices. Well, that's still a little bit too big and too broad because you could talk about anything in practices, so you've got to narrow that down. So the author or the writer would narrow it down to either running laps or drills. So if he chooses to write about practices, then he's going to either have to pick running laps or drills to write about. Okay. And then he might write about equipment. Okay. Well, again, that's a very broad topic. So it's difficult for him or her to write a paper about equipment. So he would have to, again, break that down. He might write about cleats, might write about the uniforms, something like that. So equipment, maybe the soccer ball, whatever you need for soccer in terms of equipment. So he would choose something narrow that is manageable to write about in a 5 paragraph essay. Okay. And then he might say, well, I don't know if I want to talk about practices, kind of boring. I don't know about equipment. It's really kind of, I don't know. There'd be so many things I could choose. So maybe I'll write about the games. So he makes another category called games. Okay. And then, but games, again, you might have 10 or 15 or more games in a season. So you can't write about all the games, much too broad, too big. So you've got to narrow that down. Okay. So he would narrow that down to last year's championship or the loss against Burton High. And of course, this is hypothetical. So, Burton High, whatever that is what he has apparently experienced. So when he narrows that down, he does decide he's going to write about the games. He's kind of overlooked last year's championship and decided to write about the loss against Burton High. So that is a very specific topic that the writer can write about. Okay. He's experienced that personally. So that would be his personal narrative. And then he's going to, he's narrowed it down to just that one game. Okay. So again, I'm going to show you this. Whoops, sorry. I knocked my phone over. All right. So I'm going to show you this. This is on page 15 of your text right here. This is the cluster web. And up here, you can see, he said, over here, games. And then this is what he decided on, the game. So he kind of circled that in red. So Marshall, you may have already done this in class. You may not have missed this class, but Jasmine, you haven't seen this. So I want you to pay particular attention because you need to make a planning web. So going to page 15 in your text, you're going to have to make a planning web and turn it in. So again, you start with a very broad topic, and then you're going to narrow it down with these little circles and webs here. Okay, so that's on page 15 of your text. And that's a very good strategy to use to narrow a topic. Now, once you learn how to narrow your topic, you're not going to do this cluster web every time, but it is going to be a good tool for you to start with. So you are going to have to make a cluster web, okay? If you have any questions on that, when you get to page 15, and you're going to have to either, your textbook needs to be found, or you have to come and get another one, okay? Because you're going to have to use the textbook for these assignments, all right? So anyway, that's kind of what you're going to do. So I don't want to hand you too much on one video, but you still need to, know a lot of stuff. So I'll tell you one more thing you're going to be doing with when you start your paper. Okay, so you have to focus on the form. This is page 16 in your text. All right, so that means that each form of writing has its own set of objectives. Narration tells a story, so you need to know what narration does. Okay, narration tells a story. Your first paper will be a personal narrative. Okay, persuasion convinces someone to accept your point of view. Okay, which is a little bit different than argumentative. Okay, and exposition explains something. It tells you how to do something. Like I said, make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or change a tire on a bike, or whatever. Okay, and then descriptive just basically describes something. You could be describing an incident. You could be describing a home. You could be describing a car, anything like that. But it would have to have enough information to fill up a paper for 5 paragraphs, and then also be narrow enough, okay? But we'll be doing it in order. We'll be doing narrative, descriptive, expository, and persuasive, and then we'll probably do the formal letter writing, and then we will do a research paper, which we'll spend a lot of time on, so I'm not sure that we'll get to that this term or not, okay, because this other writing is going to take up a little bit of time. So my goal in all of this is to teach you how to write, because in your high school career, I don't care if you're going to college or you're going to work somewhere, but you're always going to need to know how to write. So reading and writing are 2 of the most important skills you can have. And I'm pretty strict on the writing because it's a very, very important skill. For your high school career, whether you take AP classes, honors classes, or regular classes, you'll be writing and you'll be reading, because you're taking literature in high school. Once you get 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, you'll be taking literature, which is reading, lots and lots of reading. And then you have to respond, and you have to write essays. So the sooner you learn to write properly, the better it's going to be for you later. Okay, so my goal is to make sure that you learn to write properly and strongly. Okay. So let's see. So you know the types of writing, okay? And then sometimes you would use what we call a hook to attract someone's attention, but we're not going to go too much into that right now. We'll do that a little bit later. But all that is just like a statement. You can make it a question, a preposterous statement, or a quotation, or something like that to attract readers' attention. But that's a whole nother lesson, so we'll go into that a little bit later. But just keep in mind that you're going to learn how to write a hook or a strong lead, okay? Okay, so, and the way you're going to be writing is you're going to be using what I call the SEE method, S-E-E, okay? And I'm going to hold this little paper up for you. Okay, hopefully you can read it. Okay, this is the SEE method, S-E-E method. Okay, and what that is statement. So S is for statement, make a statement. Okay, and then the E is for extension. So you're going to extend that statement. And then the other E, S-E-E, is for elaboration. So you're going to elaborate even more on that statement. So what I'm saying here is, for instance, say you say, to learn to play the piano, she practiced every day. Say that's your statement, okay? So your statement, let me see if I have a piece of paper here I can write on. Hang on 1 second for me. Here, hold on. Okay. So your statement, okay, that's going to be your S. Okay, so there's your S right there, your statement. Okay, so to learn to play the piano, she practiced every day. That's your statement. That's this right here. Okay, that's your statement. Okay, then you have to extend that statement, okay? So that's your E, your E. Extension. This means extension, okay? So you would say something like, from scales to simple melodies, she began to see improvement in weeks. So you're extending the fact that to learn to play the piano, she practiced every day. And then you're extending it by saying, from scales to simple melodies, she began to see improvement in weeks. And then your next E, okay, there's that E. And then this last E, you can see it right there. Yep. Okay. Is going to be your elaboration. Okay. So you're elaborating by saying, after several months, she was playing sonatas with grace. So you're elaborating on it. You're taking it even further. So here you go. All right. So your C, S-E-E. Your S is statement. Your E is extension. And your E is elaboration. Okay. So there you go. There's your C method right there. Statement, extension, elaboration. Means you make a statement, you extend it a little bit, tell us more about it, and then you elaborate on it, tell us even more about it. So this is the method by which I want you to learn to write. So you're going to be using the C method for your papers. Okay? So that's what that is. Okay? So let's see if there's anything else. Okay, so that actually is on page 18 of the textbook. So you can find that on page 18, the C method. Okay? And then there's an application, applying the drafting strategies. So I just want you to read that and try and do that, fill that in. For instance, it says, write an exciting or interesting grabbing lead for a review of a school play. Okay. Don't worry about that. You're not going to do that because we're not going to do the lead or the hook until later. So don't worry about number 1. But number 2 says, complete the following statements and use the C method. So my favorite sport is, and then it has a little question mark. This is applying the drafting strategies on page 18 of your textbook. Okay. And then to save some money, try. And then there's your statements. You want to state it, you want to extend it, and you want to elaborate on it. Okay. So that's pretty much the beginning of the writing process. It's just choosing your topic, and then you're going to be drafting, doing your actual paper. So we'll be doing a little more with that, but I want you to pay attention and read this chapter. It's 2.1 and 2.2. So it's from page, I think, what did I say? 13 to 18. Let me check. Oops, hang on. Give me 1 second. Okay, it's chapter 2 in your textbook, and it starts on page 12. And what I want you to go through is page 18, all the way through page 18. So on that very last part where it says applying the drafting strategies, just look that over and see if you can understand it and try to do, the number 2 question with the A and B exercises. So what you're doing is my favorite sport is, then you'll fill that in. So that's your statement. And then you're going to extend it, and you're going to, what's that other one? What was that third one? Elaborate on it. Sorry. I lost my focus for a minute. Okay. So you're going to elaborate on it. Okay. And then the second one, to save some money, try. Then it has a little question mark. So you're going to fill in the blank, whatever you think might. Okay. So that would be your statement. Then you're going to extend it. So talk a little bit more about it, and then you're going to elaborate on it. So give us even more information about it. Okay. So I'd like you to do that exercise, applying the drafting strategies, number 2, A and B, and you can turn those in. And that's pretty much where I'm going to stop right now, because I want to make sure that you can absorb all of this. So make sure you watch this video, number 1. Number 2, make sure you go through the pages and read them and try the methods. Like I said, applying the drafting strategies. I also want you to make a cluster web. So hang on. That was back here. Again, page 15. Page 15 in the text, okay? Right here. this is what you're going to do. You're going to choose a topic. And Marshall, like I said, you may have already done this in class because you may not have been out the day that we did this. So you're going to have a major topic like soccer. You know, say you want to do dance or basketball or hunting or whatever you're into. But then you're going to have to break it down, and then you're going to have to choose a topic to write about, a specific topic to write about. Okay? So I expect you to do that and turn it in. And I also expect you to do on page 18 that little exercise, number 2, A and B. Okay? So if you have any questions, please email me and let me know. Make sure you're keeping up with this work. Marshall, I know you'll be back, I think Friday. So that's this week. So we've started writing our paper. It's due tomorrow. So you'll have some time to go through that. And Jasmine, I'll be sending you another video with more information. Right now, this is just information that you're going to have to absorb. And I want you to read those pages and do those exercises. Okay? So that's where we are right now. And I will be back with you in a day or two, Jasmine, to give you some more information and some more assignments. Okay? So let me know if you have any questions or you need any assistance. And make sure you come to the Tuesday Zoom meeting so that we can go over what you're doing and what you need to be doing. Okay? So hope you have a good evening, and I will hopefully see you soon or talk to you soon. Okay? Good night.